Hi guys, welcome to my next video about processes. Processes can be a little bit tricky because they're all so different. Your standard process is just an image that has, let's say, 9 steps. For example, how to make chocolate. So you get this, then you go this, then you go this, and you finally get the chocolate at the end. That's your basic one, that's your easy one. Then it can be more complicated, like how a machine works. So you have to sort of figure that out. This one is sort of an example that's kind of in the middle. So it's not a super straightforward process, but it's I think a good example to give you the basic idea. Let's have a look now at what we're dealing with. I'll read the task. It says, the diagrams below show the stages and equipment used in the cement making process and how cement is used to produce concrete for building purposes. So remember, just like with all Task 1 academic writing, we should do an introduction, an overview, and 1, 2, or 3 body paragraphs. Usually with processes, I try to do 2 body paragraphs, but often just 1 is enough. Yeah, in this case, because you've got the 2 images, it really lends itself to 2 body paragraphs. First job is to paraphrase what they said in that first sentence. In other words, say it in my words. So instead of saying the diagrams below show, of course I don't need to say below, and I should change the word show because, well, why use the same word as them when there are other options available? I've said the diagrams illustrate how cement is made and used as concrete for construction. Okay, cement is made, that's the first image, used as concrete for construction. Well, they mentioned there that it says to produce concrete for building purposes. Building purposes, of course, is construction. Next, our job is to write the overview. Now, this is a bit tricky. I mean, the basics of overviews for processes is what's the opening point of the process, and what's the last step of the process, and how many steps there are. Now, you can't always do that. For example, in this case, how many steps are there? Well, it's not really clear, but you have to sort of indicate what the beginning is and what the end is. So you'll have to use your common sense here. You have to be a little bit flexible. I can't give you the exact formula for every single one because they're all so different. But the basic idea is what's the starting point of the process and what is the ending point of the process. If there is a number of steps, say that as well. So what did I say here? I said it can be seen that there are many steps required to create concrete. How many steps? Oh, it's hard to say, so I just said many. And remember that, so beginning with the ingredients of limestone and clay and ending in a concrete mixing device. So again, how many steps? In this case, it's unclear, so I just said many steps. It might be 8 steps, 9 steps. In this case, just many. The beginning point, ingredients, limestone and clay. Ending point, concrete mixing device. There's my introduction, there's my overview. Now, body 1, it's actually really easy, okay? You just go through from the beginning and then step by step by step. You will use a lot of passive as well because we're not going to say they put limestone in it and then they mix it and then we're not using they, okay? We're using this is what happens. So these materials are mixed, they are put into, etc., etc. You'll see in my example here. So cement production begins, or first step, with the crushing of limestone and clay. This crushing creates a powder which is fed into a mixer and then passes through a tube into a rotating heater device. So you can see through the crusher into a mixer, okay, into a rotating heating device. I'm just going through the image. The mixed powder passes through this machine and is once again rolled through a grinder. You can see the grinder there, resulting in cement, which is placed into bags. As you can see, just go step by step by step. Next, concrete production. Okay, what do we do? First step through to the last step. Concrete production is a fairly straightforward process which simply requires the mixing of 4 ingredients. This mix includes cement, 15%, and water, 10%. Remember, I only let myself use brackets twice per task. That's just my own rule to avoid doing the same thing over and over again, just to show some variety. The next one, I don't use 25% in brackets, I say a quarter. Okay, well, a quarter of this mix is sand, and the remaining half, 50%, is gravel. What happens? These ingredients are put into a concrete mixer which rotates in a clockwise direction. They had arrows for the direction of the machine. I don't really know why, but so I thought, I'll put in that it's clockwise to show those arrows as well. And produces the final product ready to be used for construction. Now, why do we know it's used for construction? That goes back to what they said in the task. They said concrete for building purposes, and that's why I've used for construction there. Now, the other thing you need to remember is that, as I said before, you need to use passives throughout these. So let's go through. What are the passives from body paragraph 1? Well, we can see in the second sentence we've got which is fed. Is fed. So passive, by the way, is be verb plus past participle. So the be verb is fed past participle into a mixer, and then it passes through a tube and a rotator. Next one is once again rolled. So is rolled through a grinder. That again is passive. Be verb plus pp. Is placed into bags. We don't say people put it into bags. We say it is placed into bags. Again, passive, is placed. What about body paragraph 2? Are there any passives? Yeah, down the bottom, the action, the ingredients are put into a concrete mixer. Not people put the ingredients in, the ingredients are put. And again, in the last sentence, be used for construction. That's not so important, but that is a passive as well, to be used. So you get the idea, alright? These are tricky because they're all so different, but the basic idea is, in your overview, what's the beginning point, how many steps, if you can, and what's the final point of the process. Again, be flexible. It just depends on what process you get, but that's kind of the basic idea. And then, as you explain it, use passives. Never say they do this. You say this is done. And that's the basic. That's basically all it is. So it's not actually that difficult. You can use words to show progression, such as first, next, after this, following this, finally, ultimately. Don't use one of those at the beginning of every sentence, because you want to show variety. It's always good to show a bit of variety in the language that you're using. For example, look, if you look at my one, I never actually say first, next, finally, ultimately, but mine still shows progression. So if you want to, you can use first, next, etc., but maybe not for all of them, and it's not something you have to do. Just make sure it progresses naturally. Alright, as you can see, it's pretty simple, but again, it does depend on the process that you're given. Some are easy, some are very hard. That's, I think, a good model though to work with. That's the end of this one. Let's move on to maps for our next video.